So we all fall down, right? In order to build something new, we have to let go of what was. And I will just repeat, you'll either love me or hate me by the end of this talk. How many people here consider yourself a kind person? Who considers themselves a kind person? Those of you who are not raising your hand, please see a chaplain. How many of you have done an unkind thing before? Oh, Carlton. I noticed the hands went down really fast without invitation there. It's hard. It's hard to acknowledge that, hey, I've done unkind things. But we all have done unkind things. And I don't think that it's because we're unkind people. Everybody who raised their hand and said, yes, I've done unkind things, also raised their hands and says, I consider myself a kind person. And I'm no different. I consider myself a kind person. I actually work at kindness because it's a quality that's important to me in my life. It's an important quality that I want to demonstrate, and yet I fall down. I fall down. I'm very fortunate to have very close friends who will hold my feet to the fire and hold me accountable for my actions or sometimes lack of action. Coming up, we have Random Acts of Kindness Week, and I'm so pleased that our Vitality team has decided to take that on and create a project from it. Next week, you're going to see some business-sized cards on the seats, and you're going to be invited to take those cards and to do random acts of kindness, and when you do, to hand your card to that person. It's an invitation for them to take on the task themselves, to pass that card along with another random act of kindness. So maybe some of you are thinking, well, gosh, how can I do a kind act? When I had a car, one of my favorite things to do as a random act of kindness would be to buy the coffee for the person behind me. So in this instance, I would just leave one of those business cards and have the clerk, or the barista, I guess they're called, hand that to the person whose coffee that I have just purchased. But there's something else about being kind. It's those things that we choose not to do because our baser nature is injured or upset about something, right? It's the word we choose not to say. It's the gossip we choose not to engage in, right? I strongly recommend you don't pass the card to someone and say, I didn't cuss you out for that move, here's a card. But that's probably some of the biggest kindness that we do to one another. I told you guys that at my job, my day job, right, my grind, that I've been invited several times to speak enterprise-wide to 4,000 people potentially. There's usually about 50 people on the call. And they've asked me to speak again, but this time they've given me a topic. And just like when I take a topic on for a talk that we're going to have, that topic will kick my can. When I start taking it deep, when I start meditating on it, when I start thinking about what does this mean in my life, all of this stuff comes up. Fabulous, fabulous lessons. Well, they have asked me to speak on setting boundaries and working with difficult people. It's been a fun week. Well, they're in for a surprise. I'll be doing this on, I think, March 3rd. They're in for a surprise because I have a very different take on this concept. First of all, I have very good boundaries. And that surprises people because when you cross my boundary once, I don't say anything. You can cross my boundary once. We're learning about each other. You know, I don't want you romping on me every time I cross your boundary. I want you to trust me that I'm doing my work, and I know I was wrong. Right? Let's just trust each other to be doing our own work. But if you cross my boundary a second time, I'm going to let you know. And if you cross my boundary a third time, I'm going to let you know several times. Very sternly, you get the mom voice. And the thing about difficult people is, okay, raise your hand if you're a difficult person. Okay, Carlton finally raises his hand. I love you so much, Carlton. Thank you for being here. I think there are far fewer, quote unquote, difficult people. Like there's this category of this kind of person and that kind of person. I think there are far fewer actual difficult people in the world than we think based on our interactions with someone. I think that there are difficult combinations of personalities. I think there are difficult combinations of energies. And one of the things I'll be challenging my listeners to consider is that is none of their business what's going on for someone who they think is a difficult person, right? Why is that? Because they're not a difficult person. They're just a person. They're just a person walking their walk, trying to develop themselves professionally, trying to be a good friend, trying to be a good companion through life. But sometimes we're at odds with one another. I picked today's topic, which is let it go, because we were going to talk about turning things over to God. But if we don't understand our boundaries with people, how can we even begin to talk about our boundaries with what is mine and what is God's? Most of us have studied the 4 agreements, yes? One of the 4 agreements is to be impeccable with one's word. And that agreement really grabbed me because I have this thing about truth. And I used to beat people up with the truth. Well, it's true, isn't it? I can say that. It's true, isn't it? I'm not doing anything wrong. I'm just telling you it's true. It's a very different idea to think about being impeccable with one's word. But I got a new take on that recently. I have a ministerial mentor as I go through this process here of being in ministry without having minister's credentials. And so I was talking to my ministerial mentor about some of what's coming up for me and some of the boundaries that I'm exploring, especially at my day job where I work with 400 other people, other personalities, and some of them are difficult to me. And he said, well, have you ever read Byron Katie's The Work? Another book. Every time I talk to him, he's got another book for me to read. But no, I've never explored Byron Katie's The Work. And he broke it down for me a little bit. He said, there's 3 kinds of business according to Byron Katie. There's my business, there's their business, and there's God's business. And what I notice is that I think I know what's my business and what's God's business. But what I become increasingly aware of is I keep forgetting what's my business and your business. And so it's easier for me to explore it from that level. So there is somebody at work who gossips about me. I am her difficult person, and she is mine. And part of my problem, because I'm a very direct communicator, which is difficult for some people just to hear, this is what I think. I'm learning to puff and fluff a little bit. But when I noticed that she was gossiping about me, I talked to her about it. I said, hey, can we just step aside here? I'd like to talk to you about something. And I told her, hey, it's very apparent to me that you and this other person are having conversations that diminish me, and you're having them behind my back. And she said, oh, no, I'm just listening. She's just venting. It's hard for her. You're a direct communicator. She's circular. You're Northwest. She's Southern. She needs everything with a smile and compliments, and it's just really hard for her to hear your feedback. And the thing was, I knew without any real proof, right? I'm a paralegal. Doesn't matter what you think you know. You got to have that piece of paper. You got to have that evidence. But I knew, because I'm not an idiot, that it wasn't just listening. I knew she was instigating. Well, that person is gone. And so now there's a new gossip buddy who's been identified. And I brought it up again. And I said, look, if you have a problem with me, you can just come and tell me. I don't need fluff, just so y'all know. And you can get some testimony over here from Miss Christina S. Young. You do not need to come to me and compliment me for an hour so that you can tell me, but there was this one little thing you did that I didn't like. You can just come to me and say, hey, this little thing happened, can we talk about it? And we can talk about it, and it's cool. Totally cool. I'll hear ya. I'm here to work on myself. I'm here to improve myself. And if I feel like I've been managed, you'll get more resistance than if you just come at me with that thing. Because that's who I am. And I know that makes me a difficult person for some people. So here's the thing. I told you how bad these women are. Oh, bad, bad, bad. Difficult, difficult, difficult. Won't mind their own business, but what am I doing right here, right now? Telling you about their business. You know why? Because it's been occupying my mind. It is not just about what we talk about. It is not just about seeking out someone to talk about someone else. It's about what is occupying your mind. And it's not always easy to recognize. I mean, I was hurt. I had some injury. I mean, I wasn't, lying on the ground crying, but it bothered me that somebody who I appreciated at work was off doing these things. And I was able to distance myself from it right up until the point I got that proof. I knew it was happening, but when I saw it happening, I died a little inside. I was a mess. So for someone with really strong, self-proclaimed, I have strong boundaries, what I discovered was I hadn't set my boundaries out far enough because she was so nice to my face. And in fact, when the injury happened and I overheard me being diminished behind my back, suddenly my boundary went from here to whoosh, here. And she felt it. There's no way you're going to miss that. We sit next to each other. We banter. We tell jokes. We share family life. And all of that stopped. There was no missing it. I wish I had better skills. Because I know what it looks like from her perspective. I iced her out. That's a mean girl move. I didn't do it to be mean. I did it to protect myself. And it's taken me 4 days to reevaluate my relationship and move my boundaries a little bit. And you'll see on my Facebook wall, I've changed my cover photo. It's now the Michelle Obama quote, "When they go low, we go high." And there's nothing high about icing someone out. It's just a stop point for me. I was more concerned about what she thought and what she said than I was about who I am and how I choose to behave. I'm still working on it. It's all about skill. I don't set out to ice people out. I don't set out to gossip about people. I don't set out to cause injury in relationships that could be beautiful. I don't do that. And yet it happens. It happens. Because we're all here showing up in our own way, doing our best, trying to live this crazy life, right? I'm in the middle of this. It feels like drama and trauma with a work relationship. I mean, I don't even live with this person, right? Trying to remember, I'm a spiritual being, so is she. But I'm more spiritual. You know what? She could be doing her work harder than I am. I tried everything to work on this relationship. Everything. I tried to talk to her directly. I tried being kind. I would just do little things like when we have terrible tissues at work. Terrible. I mean, you may as well just go get a piece of paper from the copier and blow your nose in it. They're horrible tissues that they give you at this place. So I went and got the nice puffy ones with lotion, and I got an extra one, and I put it on her desk for her. So, I was really trying to create this new relationship. The one thing that I didn't do until that injury? Pray. Meditate. Remember my teaching. Go to the fundamental truth. I have two people in my life who are genuinely psychic. Okay, we are all psychic. I'm here to tell you. When I was 15 years old, I found a book in the library that said, "You are psychic." I got so excited, man, I got that book. I read that book. I did everything in that book. And what I discovered was where my particular sensitivity is. My particular sensitivity is clairaudience. It's auditory. And it has been shown to me time and time and time again. Now, I wish that sensitivity manifested itself by me being able to read all your thoughts. But that's not generally how it shows up. How it generally shows up is when I think about something really hard and I'm with somebody who is also clairaudient or has another kind of sensitivity to them, they know what I'm thinking. That's more often what happens. And let me tell you how annoying it is. It's freaking annoying. But it also awakened me to other things and helped me to learn how to communicate at a level other than just, bam, this is what I think. Direct communication, right on, in your face. I need to practice that softer, more spiritual approach a little bit more. Let's talk a little bit more about the work of Byron Katie, because I think it's brilliant. I got online as soon as I heard about it and tried to find more. I couldn't find anything that stretched to longer than 3 paragraphs. I'm like, no, I need something deep. I need more. I can't just get up there and say, okay, there's God's business, your business, other people's business. Okay, thanks, have a good week. And it isn't out there, I think, because it's not complicated. It's a practice. It's like prayer. I can teach you how to pray in a minute or two. I can teach you how to meditate. 30 seconds, if you just trust what I say. But you got to practice it. You got to push those boundaries, right? So one of the things that I notice is that we are very skilled at tricking ourselves about what is my business and what is their business. Very skilled. I kind of like the old world countries, but I lived in Turkey. The gossip drove me crazy, but you know what? They were unapologetic about talking about other people. Talking about their marriages, talking about their education choices, just gossip. Here in the U.S., especially those of us who are doing our work and who have committed to not gossiping, we have other ways of justifying being in someone else's business. And it's not anything that you can be taught, but you can learn. When I was looking at examples of, okay, what's a boundary between my business and someone else's business, one of the ones that came up was, your neighbor's nasty lawn is not your business. I'm like, how is that not my business? I gotta look at it. I don't want to look at that nasty lawn. How is that not my business? And then I remembered my previous next door neighbors and how they would come over if my car was this far past the fence onto their side of the property. Public street, but it bugged them if we were even this far in front of their house. And I just, in my mind, would, well, why do they care so much? It's a public street. And it brought out the worst in me, I'm not going to lie. They came over once, and the son came over and asked me to move it. I mean, this hadn't just been me. We didn't have a car very often at that point, but my kids had endured being yelled at and told that they're, dumb and uncultured for parking this far over the fence line. And one day it came to be my turn. His son came over, and we had a conversation, and he insinuated that I was uncultured and stupid because all around the world in every other country, no one would ever park in front of anyone other's house. And he was insinuating that I was untraveled and just this dumb hick that had always been in Tacoma. And like I said, when someone crosses my boundaries once, I don't say anything. He can live with his ignorance. What do I care? We were already looking for another home at that point in time. But it brought out the worst in me. He got me to agree to move my car. I almost moved it right in front of his house. It's not kind. I don't consider myself an unkind person. But we can be put in positions where it happens. Especially when we're trying to protect ourselves, especially when we don't know what our boundaries are in a certain situation. And especially, most especially, when we don't pray on it first. And so I've gone on and on and on about what's my business, what's somebody else's business, and really what we're talking about today is what's God's business. And I was a little bit stuck on that. We've talked about what's God's business, right? The what is mine, the how is God's. The what is mine, the how is God's. But how do you practice that? I mean, God is kind of a nebulous thing. God becomes personal to us when we have a personal practice around understanding what God is to us. But how do I know when I'm in God's business? Because sometimes it's a little bit goofy. I've shared the story before when I was a brand newly minted practitioner and all I had was my schooling but not a whole lot of experience. My very first practitioner client was someone that I'd been in a class with. She came to me and she wanted me to pray on her being in divine right relationship. And as soon as she said it, everything in me went, oh, she doesn't know what she's asking for. She has no idea what she's asking for, because I knew her well enough to know that she wasn't going to walk out of my office and meet Mr. Right and ride off into the sunset and live happily ever after. No. She was going to have to deal with the hurt from past romantic partnerships. She was going to have to deal with how she felt about her father. She had a lot of things that she was going to have to deal with, and I didn't have the skills to help her understand that you will have to become the person who can be in the relationship that you want to have. You are going to be molded and changed. And if she's anything like me, it's not this soft, gentle molding as of clay. Forged in the fire every time. Every time. I'm telling you, when something's easy, I kind of suspect that I've missed something huge in my spiritual walk. Some people do. Some people are a little bit slow and clean, but they get deep. And that's just a different way of doing things. That's never been my style. I'm quick and messy and deep. And I mean messy. Snot, tears, animal noises, fights, broken relationships, lost jobs. Messy, messy, messy every time. And I had a suspicion with this gal that she was slow and clean. That she was slow and clean. And that unless she gave over and was willing to have it all fall down, what Christina's just saying, how messy are you willing to let it become and still say, that is God's business? None of my business. Because you're not responsible for the how. You're only responsible for the what. What? Divine right livelihood. How? Get fired so that you can move into your divine right livelihood. Perfect partnership. How? He cheats, you kick him out. There's lots of crying, lots of gossip, lots of sorting out of boundaries between his business and your business, because you had all this intermingled business. That was very sexist. I'm being schooled. I grew up in the men marry women, women marry men, and that's just not true anymore. Partners. You mix. See, I just did it again. I said that's not true anymore. It's always not been true. FYI. Look at me growing right in front of you. Look at me stumbling and falling and being stretched. This is what I asked for when I took this job. My ministerial mentor said, "Why are you doing this?" I said, "I don't know." He goes, "You better find out." One of the biggest things that came up for me is I'm here to grow with you. I don't have training as a minister. I have lots of training in falling down and getting back up again. I have lots of experience in minding someone else's business, minding God's business. And so when you're going through it, man, I feel you. You're not a difficult person. You're not a bad person to me. You're a person. Walk in that walk, and I trust you, and I love you, and I know you're doing your work. And I am so honored to be able to do that work with you. So now that I've called you all gossips and all of the things that would suggest that difficult person, right? I hope you know that it's coming from a place of, I know about it because I do it. I know about it because I do it. And I also know that you're on your journey. You're growing. You're finding those boundaries. You're setting those boundaries. What is mine? What is theirs? What is God's? Why don't we take that into meditation?